Yes, flying in India, viewers, has indeed become an extremely expensive affair this winter. As airlines are hiking up rates, this is the first holiday season without restrictions since the COVID-19 pandemic. Traditionally, ticket prices peak in December due to the holiday season and the growing demand. But this time, airfares have broken previous year's records. Domestic airfares have seen an upward trend nearly 40% higher than usual. In fact, in some sectors, even higher than 40%. Let me give you an example. Let's look at the Mumbai-New York figures. From May 2022, it's now at 70,296 return fare. It used to be at 33,265 in 2019. So the percentage of increase is 53%. Look at Bengaluru and London. These are the sectors where you see the highest kind of hikes in prices. It used to be 51,220. It is now 51,223 Bengaluru to London in May 2022. In May 2019, the same sector was charging 42,003 rupees, and this is a hike of 18%. So this is the issue that has reverberated in Parliament as well. The opposition cornered the government on the rising airfares in Rajya Sabha, questioning the ridiculously high prices. Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia responded to this claim, calling it a seasonal phenomena. We'll play out what the Union Minister had to say. But first, let's listen in to the citizen voices, those who are singed by the skyrocketing fares.
The prices have gone up. Probably they are trying to cover up for the COVID losses they've got. But personally, I would feel, I'm not an expert on aviation, but personally I feel if they keep it low, if they play on low margin and higher volumes, probably more people will start traveling.
Over the world, not in India. I believe it could be because of the petrol prices. But in addition to that, I think there are a lot of organizations and airlines that are taking advantage. So that's my take on it.
Considered to pre-COVID level, it's same. But however, during COVID, because the prices of the oil were reduced, that was the prices were, there were no demand, something like that. Now the demand has picked up. So obviously also the prices in the international market of oil has also picked up. So the prices have gone up.
मैं कहना चाहता हूँ कि जो अपर लेवल के जो मिडिल क्लास लोग हैं मतलब उन लोगों के लिए काफ़ी दिक्कत की बात है क्योंकि कई बार ऐसा होता है कि इमरजेंसी रहती है और हमें एट अ टाइम ट्रैवल करना पड़ता है।
टिकट्स महंगे तो इसके लिए सीजनल जो आपका है वो एक नॉर्मल रेंज रहना चाहिए क्योंकि मोस्टली तो सीज़न में ही लोग ट्रैवलिंग करते हैं और जो भी मिडिल क्लास वगैरह आदमी रहते हैं वो एक 11-12 महीने कमाते हैं नहीं बोले तो और उसमें एक महीना उनको तो जाना पड़ता है या एक महीना 8 दिन जो भी है।
अभी जैसे मेरा एक रिसेंट एक्सपीरियंस है, मैं अभी प्लान कर रहा था बाहर जाने के लिए उत्तराखंड के लिए, तो उसके लिए टिकट बुक्स मुझे 4 मंथ्स बैक करना पड़ा क्योंकि अभी अगर मैं करता तो उसका चार्जेस ऑब्वियसली बहुत हाई रहता। तो इसके लिए मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि इमरजेंसी में जैसे ट्रेन का होता है तत्काल सम टिकट्स आर अवेलेबल फॉर द बुकिंग्स, वैसा कुछ होना चाहिए, गवर्नमेंट ने वैसा कुछ करना चाहिए। तो
हमें 3 महीने पहले टिकट बुक करवाना है तो होता है सस्ते में, लेकिन इमरजेंसी आता है, जब भी इमरजेंसी आता है तो वही प्राइस में हमको वो टिकट मिलेगा ना तो हम लोग बड़े खुश हो जाएंगे। बट ये जो सरकार अभी जो बना रही है ना वो बहुत बुरा बना रही है।
There's been a massive surge in passenger traffic from the corresponding period of January to November of this year if you compare it to last year's traffic. In fact, there's been exactly a 52% hike in the total number of passengers who have travelled. Be that as it may, with these rising numbers, the government feels that given the fact that airlines which were bleeding during the COVID times where in fact virtually due to various lockdowns and other restrictions, airfares also, in fact, there was a price band that was put in place and aircraft and airlines could not be operated without those price bands being adhered to, because clearly at that point of time there was a fear that there would be super profits that would be made by these airlines. Now that things are returning to normal, the government a few months ago decided to do away with those price bands, but correspondingly several other things have happened. If this question that was raised is also a genuine one, but the minister has also come out to say that it's important to understand that aviation is a seasonal industry. There are crests and troughs. There are pricing differences because of seasonality change. Aviation has gone through the toughest times during COVID. We experienced V-shaped recoveries, and also ATF is an important ingredient, and 50% of the carrier's cost structure has gone up from pre-COVID because of the 35,000 to 40,000 kiloliter to today's 1,70,000 rupees. There's a 2.5% times jump in the raw material. Also the reservation bucket designator, if you book way in advance, you'll get very cheap tickets and fares go up as the capacity fills up, which is an international practice which is followed all across. But be that as it may, despite the fact that several MPs have raised this issue inside the House, the fact is that there are no longer any price caps.
Well, now let's listen into what the Union Minister of Civil Aviation had to say in his defense when he was cornered about this issue about rising airfares. Here's what the minister had to say.
In India, air travelers are facing huge problems, many kind of problems. First one, skyrocketing fare of air travelers. So these airline companies are exploiting the common people in different ways. So they are exploiting the people without any norms and regulations. Here, my question is, in India, some sectors, they are charging for a short journey, they are charging about 25,000 rupees, sir. So here the question is, doesn't the government some sort of regulations is needed to bring a method into this?
I think it's extremely important to understand that the civil aviation sector is a seasonal industry. There are crests and there are troughs. When festive season starts in October all the way up till February is the high season of civil aviation. You then get into a little bit of a medium lull situation, and then the trough, which is the monsoon season, is really a wipeout season in terms of civil aviation is concerned. So there will be, because of seasonality factors, there will be pricing differences. Point number one. Point number two, sir, we also have to understand that the civil aviation sector has gone through possibly the worst time of any industry in the world during COVID. It was the only industry in which our planes were pretty much on the tarmac for almost 18 to 24 months. And the very fact that we've experienced a V-shaped recovery speaks great volumes of the resoluteness of our carriers and the capability to supply that service to our common man. ATF, which is a very important ingredient as a raw material, air turbine fuel, almost close to about 50% of a carrier's cost structure, has gone up from pre-COVID between 35,000 to 40,000 rupees a kiloliter to today's level of 1,17,000 rupees a kiloliter. So there's been almost a 2.5x jump in the main raw material in your cost structure, which comprises of almost 50%. That too has an effect on fares. And finally, sir, the civil aviation sector functions on what is called as a reservation bucket designator, RBDs, where if you book very far in advance, you will get very, very low fares. But as the plane keeps filling up, the fares certainly do go up, and that is an international practice that is followed all across the globe.
Okay, now let me quickly go across to my colleagues Neha joining me from Bengaluru and Dharani joining me from the Chennai airport. Neha, to you first. In terms of the hike in fares, we cited, in fact, one of the sectors that includes Bengaluru, that this is one of the busy destinations and flies, a lot of international passengers as well. What do you have to say about how this hike has hurt people's pockets? What do Bangaloreans have to say?
Yes, Afrida, slightly contrary to what the minister over there was mentioning, we spoke to a few passengers who told us that, despite having booked tickets 6 months prior, some of their relatives who booked tickets, just 3 months prior to the travel date got it much cheaper. And we had another passenger, in fact, coming in and giving a suggestion that there should be some kind of mapping that helps passengers, ascertain as to when the prices may peak and when the prices may fall, which would help them actually go ahead and make their travel plans easier. I'm going to try and take, a few questions over here from a couple of passengers who've just, come out of their flights right now. Ma'am, if I can just ask you, we're seeing that airfares have, gone up considerably, and this is a phenomenon that we see almost every holiday season. I want to ask you, how exactly are these airfare hikes affecting you and, your family?
Basically, it's too difficult to, travel during these days. Even if I want to have a genuine reason of business trip also, because of the holiday season, the prices are way too high, which is double the time what we usually pay. So it really does affect where we are genuinely traveling, not for the holiday purpose, but for the business purpose. So it definitely affects everything, like, economy-wise as well, right? So,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, all right. So I want to take one question from you as well, sir. Today the matter had come up in the Rajya Sabha where this issue of, airfare hikes was raised. And in the, on the floor of the House, the minister concerned has said that people planning their trips better would, help them ease the airfares. Do you think that, possibly planning a trip earlier and booking in advance would help? Or do you think, it's not really, we've got mixed views from people across we've been speaking to?
It is not helping. It is not helping. Same thing. We have to book early and we're not helping.
Okay. Actually,
Thank you.
Yeah, ma'am, you have something to say?
Actually, we booked the flight ticket before 2 months. So that's actually very high prices.
Okay. So, all right. Thank you.
Okay,
Well,
let's...
Afrida, you heard
right.
it there from some of the passengers themselves that even booking in advance really, isn't helping. And the fact still remains that people are having to, spend exorbitant amounts. Now,
Yes.
of course, one part of what the minister said is something that people also echoed, which is that, prices are, of course, bound to go up during the festive season. But the bigger question right now about, what he said about how booking in advance really, helps people, that is something that passengers
Yes,
have
because,
a contrary
it
view
cannot
to.
always be possible, isn't it? Dharini, what do you have to say on this? The minister's solution is, well, we are at the mercy of certain global factors. It's a demand and supply equation after all, and the minister also justifies saying people are supposed to plan ahead of time. But the fact is that whenever it comes to air travel, usually these are, short. Sometimes you have to do a short notice plan, which is why people take a flight.
Well, Afrida, Chennai is a city with lakhs and lakhs of migrant population, not only from the state of Tamil Nadu alone, but people from other states and countries, they also come here and go on a daily basis, especially during festive seasons. But when we try talking to several passengers from the Chennai airport, they are telling us that only people who are forced to travel by flights or traveling by flights at this point in time, and this has become very disadvantageous for the people from the poor and the middle class and upper middle class sectors. That is what they are feeling. In fact, right now I'm having a passenger who is a regular a user of flights, and we'll ask him himself like what he feels. Sir, what do you feel about the flight ticket prices when it's festive season, and how it is this time?
Mostly people go from other states will go to their hometown mostly during the festive season, and the population traveling from flights is more during the festive season. So during the festive season the price should be less, but during the festive season the prices of flights are like going rise like hell, and they don't even care about the passengers, and that too of connecting flights. Direct flights are like, if you are taking one flight, they will cost 20,000, 18,000, like fare hike, and whatever fare they want, they will ask, and you have to pay because you can't help it. You have to go to your hometown. You need to reach early. You have to pay. But this is like, it has become a habit of all the airlines, whether it is Indigo, AirAsia, anything. They have fares like during festive seasons, like rising like hell, and they don't even care whatever.
Where are you coming from, and how much did you pay, and how...
Dharini, you should continue to bring us these voices, and we will play them out. I am going to now shift focus to the expert joining us here on the program, Air Commodore B.S. Sivaj, DG's Aviation Safety Management Society of India. Commodore Sivaj, my apologies for keeping you waiting for long. I just want to know from you the solutions that have come from the Union Minister. It seems the onus has been shifted to the consumer, that people will have to plan in advance, and there is nothing much that the centre can do about these seasonal hikes. Are you looking at it as the ministry surrendering itself to the airlines? Can the airlines really get away with this kind of surge pricing this season?
No, ministry is definitely not surrendering to the airline, but you have to consider the viability of the airline operations. You must be aware that our airlines have suffered 20,000 crore of losses during this particular current year, 2022. During COVID period, they have suffered massive losses and they have bled very badly. So obviously now it's not only, they are actually, the airlines are not making much profit because the ATF, air turbine fuel prices, have skyrocketed. They have been rise of by 80% of the air turbine fuel. That's a very big, jump. So because of that, again, the season, it's a kind of seasonal, cyclic fares. When during season they go high, then they come down, and again they go high. So that is cyclic. So we have to take this factor also into considerations. Then there are business travelers. Before COVID, most of the business was online, and now those business travelers are back. They are traveling, and obviously they can afford to pay higher prices. And another factor is that the requirement, the passenger requirement has gone very high, but number of aircrafts available in our country are not commensurate with the number of the increase in the number of passengers. So obviously, less number of aircraft can carry those many passengers. And if you are not booked in advance, then obviously you'll have to pay higher prices. And then definitely the airline want to recover their losses which they suffered. And also please keep in mind that if airlines are not viable economically, then they'll wind down. You see the Jet Airways, the Kingfisher, Air Deccan, all these airlines and there are a number of other airlines. And they not only.
But there is a regulatory authority, sir. There is DGCA that is supposed to control the hike in prices, since and many a times travel is a necessity. It's not always a luxury. It's not all passengers traveling on holidays, which means that, the passengers are bound to feel that there is an element of exploitation. And now that that whole cap that was in place during COVID has been lifted, it seems the airlines, are going for the kill, willing to make a quick buck during this season.
No, I don't think there's any exploitation of the traveling public. Definitely, the airline needs that kind of resources, funds to remain, viable and continue to operate in a safe and efficient manner. If they're running losses, obviously they'll compromise on the safety. They'll take shortcuts. So you have to ensure that the airlines are financially viable so that they can continue to provide services with safety and efficiency. And this is not only in India, the airfare rise. It's all over the world. During season, particularly during season, the airfare will continue to rise. So you have to book in advance, you have to plan in advance. And if last minute, if you go and want to buy a ticket, then obviously it's going to cost you much more. So you can't blame the airline for that. Airlines
yes, but we do expect the ministry, we do expect the DGCA to be mindful of the fact that using the opportunity, airlines should not be allowed to, hike fares where there isn't a reasonable ground for it. I take your point about how viability of airlines has been a big question, and that has to be looked into. Thanks very much, Commodore Sivaj, for joining us here on the program. Appreciate you joining us with your informed opinion. Let's take